We're hot now. We're back with another episode. First, the sponsors. Head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com. There's a complete list of the sponsors there, guys. Special thanks to all of them. Gallo Technologies, Rhino Metals, Pulsar Thermal Imaging Technology, Right On Optics, Galco Leather Holsters, Blackwater Ammunition, Sig Sauer. Go buy a Sig. The show wouldn't be possible without all the help of the sponsors, so make sure you go support them. Shout out to Brady Spieth at Right On, Scott Volkortson at Volkortson Firearms. Go check out their podcasts. Guys, they're doing a great job. They're interviewing a bunch of people. Go check them out. Go support the brands. I got a special guest today. This guy, he's like family. I love him. I've had him on every show I've ever done. Every time I get a chance to get this guy on, I do. We got the coach, Tony Blauer. What's going on?
Dude, thank you for that.
Oh, fuck, of course. Are you kidding me? It's not every day legends walk in here, and I think you've earned that place.
That makes me blush when I hear that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But you've earned it.
My wife doesn't refer to me as that.
I don't.
Why is the crew laughing at that?
Well, I mean, I think we can't convince anybody at home that we're great, right? I don't think that's possible.
Right.
I think they see through it, and that's why you love them in the first place, right? You know? But I think it's something that you develop over time. I mean, you've managed to transcend and participate in so many different facets of the tactical community, the world. And we talked about this last time you were on, you know, just the time in, and it's just, people don't realize it takes a long time to get where you are. And I mean, I don't think there's a person in the industry that doesn't know who you are. Truth. I mean, I just don't believe that. Now you're in town.
Yes, sir.
Conference?
Part of my wrap up of 2021, everyone's favorite year.
Yeah.
And I just decided, you know what? I started the company out of my car, like driving around.
Right.
When I closed my school in 1993. Excuse me. Can we move that heater now?
Oh, yeah, you're burning up. He's burning up.
Now my throat's like, ugh.
Now he's burning.
It's really cold in here. And
It is chilly.
So I, you know,
93.
In 93, I couldn't afford to fly anywhere. I would literally drive to SWAT roundup, drive to events all over the place. And I have this kind of love-hate thing with road trips.
Right.
And I was just sitting there a couple weeks ago. I said, you know what, I'm going to do a little road trip. And I set up a seminar in Phoenix, Vegas, and we've got a course going on in Bakersfield right now, a private contract course. And I was going to do this whole loop, and it's been a blast. You know, 4, 5, 6 hours in the car, listening to 70s rock.
Yeah.
And amazing, like driving through the desert and the mountains and all of that, and then teaching 2 new presentations, a new version of No Fear, KNOW, and also this new presentation called Violence Loves Speed. And we had a bunch of shooters, like everyone in the class was a shooter in Arizona. And then we did a class, last night here. And I'm still running, you know, I got meetings. I got 2 more meetings after this, and just trying to wrap up the year.
You know, it's. I think it's genius. Stan Efferding, the fitness guy, you know, power lifter. The minute COVID hit, he went on the road and did like a 20 fucking gyms tour, because he's like, what the fuck else are you gonna do, right? You know,
it's bizarre because, I've got this fascination with the mindset and psychology of fear, and how to use it as fuel, how to use that fear spike you get and realize, like, this is the universe saying,
right,
there's something to learn here. And you know, we are living through the weaponization of fear against us. So
crazy.
It's neat. It's just this weird thing to be out and see how people are responding, how people react.
We're gonna get to all that. I wanted to talk to you two first about something I was talking to Byron Rogers about. What do you think of the guy Dust, the security guard? Well, you have to give me your thoughts on it. Funny, right?
National treasure.
He is, but I think people think like he's not teaching anyone. Just don't want signing up for that.
Did you see recently he started like trolling, making fun? He was doing, those one where they show the crazy disarm, and then it cuts to like somebody in heaven after they try.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Like he did one of himself, like parroting himself. So then people were like,
I think he's trolling us.
Is he playing? He has too many serious ones that I actually think, I don't know this, I don't spend a lot of time on it. I like you see it, your eyes roll.
It's hilarious.
Most of the stuff is ridiculous, but I think he's got so much of it, John, that I actually think he's a real thing.
Oh, Byron said it best. I think he's a security guard in Detroit with probably manages a building or two or a parking lot. And I see it as nobody's signing up for that. Nobody's going to that. The gun removal one he did in the car was freaking hilarious. I was like, who gets held up like that? You have to be an accountant for the mob. You know what I mean? Who's getting held up like that?
It was... Some of the stuff is incredibly dangerous.
Oh God, yeah.
Very irresponsible. Master Ken.
Yeah. Okay. It's a parody.
Yeah. But it. And it's very obvious. So if this were a parody, at some point he would say, hey, listen, this is just I'm making fun, I'm teasing, but he never has. Freddie's been around for
a couple of years. Yeah, he's been around for a minute.
It's bizarre when you think all these, because there's some really heavy influencers who are resharing, going, don't do this, don't.
You think it's bad?
I don't know how many followers he has because I've never even been
on TikTok. I think he's got 1 million, but I don't think on TikTok anyone takes him seriously.
Look, the thing is, we're sending a lot of eyes to his page, and people are so gullible and naive right now that I don't know that they're reading the post, going, "Don't do this. This will get you hurt."
What do you want to say?
Nothing. It's comedy to me at the end of the day with Dust, but
Dust. I love that we all call him Dust.
but I honestly believe. It's too serious.
I think he's legit, but I think he's realizing he's retarded. If that makes sense.
I don't think he has that self-awareness.
Maybe not. Eddie, nobody's paying, but there's no student. There's no students ever there. It's him doing it on a coworker.
Let's fly to Detroit and see.
I know. I invited him. I actually said, if Dust is listening or he ever listens to this, I actually said I will pay the tuition for a Tony Blauer course, the tuition for a Tony Setmanat course, the tuition for a Byron Rogers course, or all of the above if he wanted to go. Because I think you have to extend the olive branch. Hey, we'll teach you if you don't know no better.
Yeah. My experience with a lot of... I'm trying to find a polite way to say this.
The LARPers.
There's a segment of martial artists that he is of that ilk. I didn't want to say ilk. That's their religion. They just believe that. And it's like the guys at McDojo when they're reposting guys with their
punching fucking kids and throwing them down a flight of stairs
or that craziness. Yeah. But they just there's a limited self-awareness that you can't have a critical thinking conversation. And here's my hypothesis. Have you ever tried this with real resistance? People send me videos of amazing martial artists all the time. They go, what do you think of this? Look, and I go, listen, these are great demos of how fast this guy is, and he's an amazing athlete, but his attacker's not doing anything. Right. So I always tell people, close one eye and just watch the attacker. If the attacker's posing or pulling or missing, and there's no resistance,
it's not authentic.
And you can still look and appreciate the athleticism, the tactical fitness, the precision of that athlete. But it's like Bruce said, boards don't hit back.
Yeah, they don't. It's true. Now he is interesting, but I do think there's a component that's dangerous if people don't read and understand. But I just can't imagine anybody be signing up for that or paying money for that. You don't know.
But listen, how many people go to boxing? How many people go to MMA? How many people go to a combat sport versus how many people do traditional martial arts? The traditional martial arts is still by far way larger in a population, and a lot of those people, you get into there, and maybe their inkling was, I got to learn to defend myself, and they get in there, and then they're in, and you create, what I lovingly refer to as that unconscious bias. You start to believe, because the instructor may be really good, and he goes, "This, of course, you can use this for self-defense." If I ask You call up, we open up the yellow pages and we look up. Is there still yellow pages? Do they have that
Online, right?
on their phone?
It's got to be.
So you call up a Tai Chi school. Hey, can you use Tai Chi for self-defense? What's the guy getting on the phone going to say? Yes. Aikido. Yes. Traditional this, like wushu. And at a certain level, maybe there's a unicorn in the class that can do that. I make the joke. I made the joke last night at the seminar that Mike Tyson, if he only knew Tai Chi, would figure out a way to win.
Yeah.
Like some people, that's just, they figure out how to win.
Well, you see, the Wonder Boy uses a karate style. There's a lot of guys that use a lot of the different styles. Ultimately, it's an incorporation of everything. And then what you always preach, which is managing the fear component and managing the stress, really, which is at the heartbeat of it.
Yeah. And that is more important and potent than like what style,
Yeah.
And it's all my research and all my interviews with people, victims of violence and professional fighters and stuff like that, is the thread that unites them all is this powerful mind, this adaptive courage. If you look technically at a lot of the best fighters in the world, they're not technical. They're tactical. You look at the way they kick or punch or stand.
They manage distance more effectively than everybody else. If you go and you watch a John Jones fight or a Valentina Shevchenko fight, or even Amanda before she got knocked out this past weekend, or people will correct me, choked, let's put it that way. Even though it was a neck crank, I'm not going to be technical, but you see them manage distance so effectively. That's why they use leg kicks. That's why they're using traditional Muay Thai, karate, dirty boxing methods to keep people off them.
But if you look at the technique when they're standing, you see them in front of a bag or pads, they'll be in this stance, but now they're in the real fight and they're
fainting,
they're off balance. It's not even the faking or fainting. I know where you're going with that. But if you just look at if you look at somebody who's just a pure kickboxer versus an MMA guy, you'll see a huge difference in skill and balance and control. But what the MMA guy has is fear management and courage and a willingness to get hit and nail the person.
Yeah.
So if you look at the precision of, let's say, Canelo or any world-class boxer, and guys, don't misread this because I don't want any of you to hit me. And is if you put them side by side, a pro boxer and let's say top 10 MMA, most of them don't have that finesse, the timing, the
Maneuverability.
but they've got this courage. They're gladiators, and it's the fear management element. Because if you took a boxer, just a straight boxer, and you put him in the ring with any, world-class MMA guy and said, go to town, the MMA guy is going to, unless he makes the mistake of trying to box the boxer. Right. But what I'm talking about is like a finesse element. Cops, let's go to shooting for a second because,
Why not?
Bad guys don't go to gun sight. Bad guys don't go to the range and practice shooting. What they have is a predatorial, asocial courage. And so the good guys go to the range and they go, look at this grouping, look at this. I just did El Presidente and this. I did.
Yeah.
But bad guys shoot more accurately, more effectively than good guys who train. What's happening there. And if you see a bad guy shooting, the good guy's going, okay, he's doing that. And the bad guy's going, fuck you. And he's doing this. And a lot of those rounds hit. We talked about it last.
Well, no one likes to get hit anywhere, let alone with accuracy.
So I look at this some of this weird black box neuroscience. Last night at the class we were talking about, how many police officers get shot in the panel in the armpit in gunfights.
Yeah.
And bad guys don't. And what happens at a physiological level is if you think I got the drop on you and you're here like this, your body's cross-extensor reflex will do this. Can I use this gun and point it at you? You won't cancel me?
It's fake.
Do you know that I've had fake guns in some classes?
They don't even see me on camera. Point it right at me.
And I'm talking to people and I go, if somebody does, and I've had people write me up, instructor pointed. I'm like, It was a fake gun.
Listen, I'll just use a dust technique. And
Right. Do not dust me. But going back to the
I got more on
physiology.
that.
you get more on that dust? You want to share it now?
It's up to you.
Go ahead now.
Go ahead.
So,
This wasn't important. I was just talking.
No, we're
about
gonna come back to that.
No, I was talking about life-saving physiology. Go ahead, make a joke.
So he is real.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. We weren't lying. Go ahead.
Yeah.
The website, 100% legit. His training center, 100% legit. It's all there.
What does he charge?
Well,
That we want to know.
you guys want to go to Detroit?
No. No, we got to get back to the gun pointed at us.
He does the first class free. So
I bet he does.
There you
Yeah, there you go. All right, we're back. Now, the gun's pointed at me.
So I just want. I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but we were talking about how a police officer in a gunfight
Gets hit in the side panel.
gets side panel armpit, and that nobody's trained to shoot like this. I don't know where the camera is. Like, we don't teach people to shoot like this.
Right.
But your body's physiology can hijack your executive function, your cognitive
Exactly.
brain. So you've been told, hey, I need to be front towards enemy or body armor down range, and I'm in position like that. If the fear spike enters, if there's a moment where I go, shit, John has the drop on me, and I allow my physiology to kind of insert itself, this is what'll happen. When I realize I'm going to get shot, the hand comes off and I turn away.
Right.
And now this guy's shooting right at me, but I've exposed the arm and the armpit and the panel. And why that's important is you can have all the technique and the structure and the training in place, but physiology rules. And how do you manage the changes that physiology
Can cause,
imposes is through managing fear. That when it's that whole link. When you peel the onion, it's that adaptive courage, that mindset, that fear management.
Now, I'm glad we're on that because I want to get to a couple of things, police related. We saw the woman, terrible story, yelled taser, 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 and still shot.
Right.
Okay. That obviously, when I saw that, I thought of you right away. I was like, what took over her body for her to disconnect what she had in her hand versus what happened, the end result, which was, she fired on a guy. Whether it was right or wrong, I don't know if the guy was reaching for a gun. There was a lot of stories floated out there, but what did you think of that situation?
I mean, it's horrible. That was like a year ago or something.
Yeah,
right?
they just started the trial like 10 minutes ago or something.
I ended up like posting something like, I was kind of like you, like, we don't know all the story. We don't know
Right.
all
I always
all
say
the
that.
stuff.
We don't know the whole thing.
But the in general, and I've been training cops since 1993, and they're like family to me. They don't get the training they need.
Right.
They don't get the stress inoculation. They don't do the scenario. Some do. The fanatics do. Like I said earlier, there are people who figure out like how to get to training, even if their agency's not supporting it or whatever.
But it's 1%. We
yeah.
know that.
But in a case like that, I mean, like it's a shitty accident that didn't have to happen, but
Your heart breaks for the lady. I think she was like a 20-year person too. She was a field training officer.
I think if, and again, like, who knows what's disinformation and propaganda and all that, but there's stories of how, she didn't train, or she was overconfident, or she didn't, at the end of the day, shit happens. And everybody, what I do, like part of our this is active duty only classes, we do a block on, this is a really high-tech title. It's called How to Watch a Dashboard Video. And because most of the time when we watch an incident, we watch it from the, armchair quarterback.
We watch it like a movie. And that's what my coach used to say. Don't watch the film like a movie.
Yeah, but people will watch it also like the armchair quarterback of, I wouldn't have done that, or I would have, like, as opposed to what's wrong with our training that could possibly happen, or holy shit, never saw that before. What do we need to start talking about and building in our training so that future students in service, recruits are educated because of this? And I don't know if that's what he meant by watch it like a movie. don't watch it like a movie, meaning it's not for entertainment.
Yeah.
It's for analysis.
Yeah, I had coaches that used to always say, don't watch the film like a movie. Break it down and look at it and, take it step by step and understand what's happening in each frame. And I think the stress of those situations, obviously, as you know, always presents sometimes a bad outcome. And I think that's what got her. I think she didn't realize she hadn't holstered her weapon and switched to her taser. I give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't know if she was yelling taser to the FTO. You don't know. Right. And you try to always give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And to everybody out there that would jump on me for that, you weren't in the situation. You weren't experiencing that stress. You don't know what she talked to her field training officer before. She might have been yelling taser. I mean, we're all, you're trained to yell
nobody. You don't do that on purpose. She knows she's being filmed. Like, this is the end of her life and her career. Right. Why would she do it on purpose? So, and anybody who's going, and this is an interesting thing because I just wrote an article. I started writing stuff on Substack because I was getting like censored like crazy on Instagram and Facebook. But I, in the last couple of weeks, I was watching a bunch of robberies online. And I was getting nervous watching them. And it's an interesting thing because it inspired me to write this article going, I've been studying violence, fear, and aggression for 43 years. I've taught from tier 1 down to women's shelters, everyone in between, tens of thousands of students, combat sports, military, law. And I got nervous watching these brazen daylight robberies. And I wrote this article going, is this bad for business that I'm telling you, my background, and I was nervous because I didn't know what I would do. And then I paused the article and I said, reread that. Here I am, I'm training for 40 plus years and I don't know what I would do. How does it make you feel?
Right.
And I said, let me offer this correction. I know what I could do. I'm saying I don't know what I would do.
Right.
And that's a certain amount of like self-awareness and introspection where
encouraged to put it out there.
Things happen so fucking fast, man, that everyone's like, head on a swivel, that's why I carry. Head on a swivel, that's why I carry. And I go like, situational awareness is a conscious cognitive skill. You cannot be fully 360 degree aware all the time.
Right.
If, you're getting ready to sucker punch me and I go, hold on a sec. Like, there's your window.
Right.
I look right and I'm not covering left. And there were these things where, I don't know if you saw this one guy, he's walking out to his car and a car pulls up and a couple of guys jump out, chase him down. And people are like, oh, that's why I carry and head on. And I'm like, dude, like every time a car pulls in front of you as you're parking, you pull out your gun. Maybe it's an Uber, someone dropping somebody off. Like there's just so much information coming. There's no way in it. That shit drives me crazy online because what you need to do, and this actually ties to what we're talking about with this officer and the taser, is we watch the edited
window. Glimpse.
We don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
We don't know the D1, the detect and avoid, the situational awareness. We don't know the verbal, the de-escalation. And then we make these judgments without like any emotional context and go. And that's what we see with all these videos online. We see the knife, we see the gun, we see the punch, and we don't realize the backstory.
And you're right. You're just getting a glimpse, and that's what people got to understand. You're not getting the full picture. You don't know what that woman's, what her day was like. Now, yes, everybody can make the argument, the person assailed didn't know that was going to happen. We don't know the story about that either. I just don't. We haven't got it all yet. But there's been a lot of these types of incidents. The most notable one, obviously, being her and law enforcement that we saw this year, but really the Kyle Rittenhouse deal, which... take me through that as you saw it, but to me, never should have been there in the first place. Nobody would want their 17-year-old or a 17-year-old that they know in that situation. I agree with what Rogan said. He's a bit of like a wannabe type kid, that type of guy, and that's fine. And he did everything right. How did he do everything right? That's the $1 million question, because that crowd's damn lucky he didn't turn and light that whole crowd up.
It's weird, and it's the real answer is what echo chamber and narrative do you want to follow?
Right.
There was a lot of intentional disinformation.
He shot minorities.
And or he traveled and crossed state lines. Well, his dad lived there,
right?
And he went there allegedly. I don't know him. There's a video and pictures of him cleaning up and fucking washing shit.
It was like a used car lot. He was like protecting or what?
There's video of him putting out fires
Yeah, medical. He said,
first aid stuff.
He was there. Now listen. My daughter, during all of this stuff, we live in California, and during all when things were kicking off, she says to me, "Hey, Dad, me and a friend are gonna go to eat in
Kenosha."
Newport." Kenosha. I'm going. Bring your AR, right? She wanted to just drive up the highway to go have sushi with a friend, and it's like 40 minutes away. And I said to her, no, I don't know what's going on. Things are kicking off all over. Peaceful protests. You're not going.
Stay home.
Right? And it was just like, but we don't, this is again, our narrative. Here's a kid. Listen, he shoots better than a lot of people who shoot all the time.
Right.
It was amazing the way he handled it.
Yeah.
And he was in pure self-defense. He could have been freaking out. He was running to get away. He got smashed with a skateboard. You Google it. There are people that are dead from that attack. That type of attack.
Yeah.
Drop kicked. A guy pulls a gun on him, and he didn't go on full auto and spray people.
It's amazing he didn't.
So. Well, he kept his shit together.
Yeah.
He was obviously trained, and if we focus on what was he doing there, it doesn't matter what he was doing there.
Yeah, he was there.
He went there. Everything he did was legal. Everything he did was lawful. And if you don't like it, whoever, I don't think he should have been. As a parent, I would have. What do you do? He went there. His dad lived there, and he was actually helping. He didn't know what was going to happen, right? And it's a question we ask in our classes. I go, if you knew that this was going to happen, what would you do differently? Like if you had a time machine, if you had a time machine, and we got him some truth serum, and said, dude, this is what's going to happen. You can go back in time and not go, or you can go. If he goes, oh well, I'm going to go back, but I'm going to bring 2 guns. Okay, then there's something off. But he didn't know that was going to happen.
It's amazing that he got out all right. Really is. I mean, I was blown away by that. He was exceptional on the stand. I mean, he did everything right every step of the way. I mean, does that surprise you that someone that young could have the fear management to handle that?
I mean, sure. I mean, for a 17-year-old in this generation,
yeah.
It was impressive. But listen, there are people I know that are professional,
risk
protectors
takers
and stuff like that, who don't have weapon skills, handling skills like that. And that type of, you've seen shootouts of law enforcement in chaotic places, and that guy's being chased by a mob. I mean, he had his shit together. It's impressive.
I thought it was wild. Now, I think it played out correctly. I think they got it right. Now he's running around and he's doing the circuit, so he's talking about it. I think that could fuck him up civilly in any case later on. I was worried about that, but he's, one of the more notable situations, and I wasn't sure if, I thought it was incredibly impressive given his age. Not that your age dictates how you'll manage fear or a situation, but I was just really impressed that he didn't get much wrong, because you're 100% right. At one point a guy pointed a Glock at him,
right.
So imagine the intensity of that. Like you said, he gets chased with a skateboard.
And he shot that guy.
Yeah, which if anybody's seen the undercarriage of a skateboard, you don't want to be hit by that. Those trucks are solid steel.
There's a security guard or cop that got hit by that. He's half his head is there's
so those are definitely 2 deadly weapon scenarios.
Not to mention the skateboard itself is made out of 9-ply wood. That's
that's
pressure.
right. Yeah.
It's super.
It doesn't feel good.
Yeah,
definitely doesn't feel good. You don't want to be hit by that.
Well, and you don't be semi-conscious with a gun.
A mob too coming at you,
stomping you and stuff like that. And it just what this country has become is insane.
Yeah,
all of that stuff is insane. And whenever any of those things, to your point about about the totality of the circumstances. Like anytime there was a video of somebody that got cornered or trapped, like the first thing I'd say to the computer or the TV, I go, "The fuck were you thinking? Why were you there?"
Right. Because it's a poor situation to begin with.
Like remember the guy that got murdered? I don't know if they ever referred to it as murdered, shot in Oregon, in the pickup truck.
Yeah.
But they got guys hunting him down. But you look back in time and you go, why were you driving around
looking for the situation?
In a truck, honking, American flag,
tiki torches, we'll get them.
But listen, the law is different depending on which.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sign of the time, right? I mean, Coach, it's like we've reached this point where you don't need, if you can avoid those situations, avoid them. Yeah. It's not good. Nothing good's going to come out of it. Nobody wants to go to court. No one wants to spend money on a lawyer. If you're trying to catch a case, that's not the way to go about it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And unless you've got some sort of calling or agenda, just friggin' wait it out. And we've got to, man, I hope the pendulum swings. I don't know what it's going to take, but it's not defund the police, it's refund the police and let them do their job. Well,
you seeing now, I was going to ask you that. That was going to be my next question. You seeing now all the funding coming back to police? I think it was a police post or somebody just shared it. I think it was Adam. It was one of them. They shared all the departments that are getting increases in funding in 2022 because they tried this defunding thing and they're like, it's not working. I think LA is like a 17% increase.
Yeah.
Insane.
Even the mayor of San Francisco came out the other day and was like, this ain't working anymore.
Well, there's a problem with the narrative, right? You can't be anti-gun, anti-police, anti-military. Who's going to come seize the guns when you want to? There's no one aligned with that agenda. I think they're killing the party slowly. And I think what's going to happen is they're in for a very rude awakening in midterms. But you're in LA. I mean, they're like wacky lizard creatures over there. Like, what the fuck is going through their heads?
Yeah.
How do they vote for these? Newsom got back in.
I don't think anyone votes anymore. I think it's all
electronic,
just a show. I don't think there's any more real elections. I mean, I don't want to.
No, I don't think you're saying a foregone conclusion that people haven't thought of. I don't know that any of it's real anymore.
Yeah, I mean, just you look at what's going on now, and the current president allegedly had more votes than anybody ever in the world, and it's just.
And he lost everything down ballot.
Yeah,
that didn't make any sense.
And he hasn't been in here a year.
The border thing's crazy. I know you spend a lot of time with border guys.
Yeah.
Kamala was supposed to be the border czar. She never goes, Tony.
Right.
Never visits. They just asked Jen Psaki the other day. They were like, what's with the border? Is the vice president of the border? She hasn't been down there. I mean,
it's a whole farce, man. The level of it's. They're not even trying to hide what's going on.
It's insane.
It's like, the mandates, you get your booster. Nothing about health, nothing about wellness, nothing about diet, nutrition. And everybody else has to prove where they're at, but they're letting hundreds of thousands of people in unchecked. And again, I almost feel stupid talking about it because it's like, it's insane. It's literally, you can go insane if you consume too much of it.
Oh, it's all bullshit. What are you going to say?
So originally in March, she had said she was going to the border. And then she went to the immigration facilities. Not technically the border. She went to the facilities.
Right.
Yeah.
She didn't go to the border itself. And that was in June 25th.
Yeah, she ain't.
How many months is that?
Fuck that. She's not supporting those guys down there. They got no support. Right now, the border guys, I would say, out of all your travels, probably get the least amount of support in the country.
And the worst job.
Fuck.
It's horror. It's, man. I go crazy. Sometimes I consume too much. I try to do, okay, 15 minutes, just scan Twitter, look for some new stuff, scan this, scan that. Because you can't look at the news, half an hour later, I'm like in a bad mood, furious. Okay, shut this phone.
I just wonder at this point. It's an on. You talked about fear in the media, which I want to get to that too with you. I don't even know who's watching CNN and MSNBC. Like the numbers have to be so bad. I don't even know how they're paying for all of it. It's going to be like the newspapers.
Well, they're funded by big pharma.
Yeah,
you know that. I mean, that's the scariest thing is the relationship between big pharma, big tech, and the government, and it shouldn't be. And it's scary that half the world's okay with that or doesn't even notice it. You turn on. I don't watch TV, but I was somewhere where
an airport, probably,
an airport or something. Every single commercial is brought to you by Pfizer, brought to you by it's just, I mean, it's scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Did you follow it at all and start to see, it's like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's the Clinton Foundation. They pretty much own everything associated with this act.
My favorite is, I mean, that and I feel, I will say this, I feel a little stupid talking about this on the show because everyone's consumed this, and do they need to hear it again?
But you're the fear master.
Well,
you have to hear it from your Freddy Krueger himself.
Right, but let's talk about managing fear as opposed to, because you look at like Fauci, who's saying you're going to need another booster. But if you follow the money, he's got patents and he's got investments in all of these government agencies and the vaccine. They had, there's talks before COVID hit and everything. They're doing deals for masks. They're doing patents on COVID. They're prepping shit. How the hell nobody looks at that and goes,
I don't even want to share it in here, T, but I heard from high level guys that DARPA's involved.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And most people don't even know about that 4-letter institution. If DARPA's involved, I'm waiting for the black coats to show up at my office. I'm telling you, I'm starting to hear that there could be an investigation into that. It's not just the WHO. It could be DARPA. It could be a number of organizations.
Well, just piggyback on that, with the FDA and saying, hey, what year do they say they want to release the Pfizer research?
59 years, right, Roy?
They extended it to 75 now. Yeah. So I looked at that and I retweeted that. I said, in 75 years, everybody that could sue them,
I think I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone will be dead. Like that's not a random number. It's like, what's life expectancy? We're making people 5 years old get this. In 75 years, they'll be 80.
Well, you see, Oliver
Crazy,
Stone won't give up on the Kennedy assassination thing. He just did a special. I don't know if you caught it.
No.
I managed to see it, and they haven't released all the files from that yet because this media manipulation and fear mongering in the media has been going on way back to the Kennedy assassination.
Right.
And they admitted that the Warren Commission was flawed. They showed the magic bullet theory, and I said to everybody, I go, if you think a bullet traveled through that many people that much and then ended up on the gurney of a fucking in a hospital 3 months later, you are on drugs. You are smoking the evidence. Yeah. And there's no way. But they're starting to release some of that stuff. And I think that all plays. I think they've been manipulating the media since then.
Yeah.
And that's what that special points out. But how do people, I want to say, manage that fear?
I think, like the course we did last night, we had BJ Baldwin was there.
Shout out to BJ.
Elliot was there. Zoltan was there. Like all these people who are like they're high end. They train. They've seen shit. They've been in shit. They compete. They've been on stage there. And my message to them, because like in certain factions, they're unicorns compared to us, things that they've done. And my message to everybody was this metaphor of this 1% shift in perspective, that if you can change your perception and if you improve perception, you improve reaction time. So it's creating more self-awareness, because self-awareness informs situational awareness. If you got better self-awareness and better situational awareness, you can have restore or create better critical thinking. What's missing in the world is critical thinking. And so you don't need to be a researcher to go, there are tons of red flags around this whole the last couple of years. There's so much wrong with it, enough for you to pause, right? And so the people that are just listening to the CNN, to the
MSN,
talking points and all that, they've lost all self-awareness. And so when someone says, well, how do you help people manage fear with this or that? It's about restoring that and connecting to the emotional, psychological, I call it the 3 I's: instincts, intuition, intelligence. If you sat down with somebody, and I've had talks with people who are really close to me, who are like, you got to get it. You got to get the shot. You got to do this. You got to do that. And I go, like, whoa, like, listen to yourself. No, you don't understand. I go, listen. There, can you tell there's this nervous energy?
Right.
Like, and they don't even see that. It's like walking into a room, and you could tell, because body language is 60% of communication. You can see, you come into the room and I'm like this, and you go, hey, T, what's up? I go, nothing. And how many times you see something's wrong with somebody, you go, are you okay? And they go, yeah, why? What's up? No self-awareness. So it starts with that. So my approach to the whole KNOW, no fear,
right,
is it's not some like fairy dust magic wand shit. It's doing the work. It's recognizing. Well, a question we ask is like, like, what is our definition for intimidation? Because we're intimidated by all the shit. And intimidation is when you're visualizing what somebody else can do to you instead of what you must do to somebody else.
Right.
And so you're visualizing this future event where you're getting your ass kicked, metaphorically or literally. And if you visualize that future event, you'll change your physiology. Everything will come in. You'll change your breathing, and now suddenly you're fixating on this shit, and you're producing non-clinical and in some people clinical anxiety.
Yeah.
And the only way out of that, there's a cool acronym I love sharing: false expectations appearing real. When I'm visualizing a future event that involves my harm, my failure, my pain, it hasn't happened, but I'm visualizing, and it's so real in my mind that it's debilitating or immobilizing me in the present. And if we could just get that message to people.
The acronym is FEAR for everyone who's paying attention
F-E-A-R,
there.
right?
F-E-A-R. Now, Tyson might have been the best at that, am I right? As far as professionals that we saw on television, and we
There's,
could
my latest No Fear iteration, I got a picture of, the first picture is Tyson, then Laurence Olivier, George St. Pierre, Andy Stump, and a simulation of Mike Rittenhouse. 5 people that are world class. Tyson used to throw up before his fights. Sir Laurence Olivier, you know who he was, one of the greatest actors ever, used to throw up before he go on stage. St. Pierre has been very vocal lately, saying the worst day of my life, the most scared I ever am, is the day of my fight. Right? Andy Stump, like a buddy of mine, dude, no fear, because fuck that, I'm scared to death. That's why he's so good. Right? And then Mike Rittenhouse, I was on his podcast, the Mic Drop. You know Mike? Okay.
Yep.
So for those people who don't know,
Seal, dog handler,
right? We got deep into the fear, and he said it was so refreshing. He goes, man, I said, I can remember being outside of a building in our stack, getting ready to go, and we knew every male in that house was going to try and kill us, and we were going to try and kill them. And anybody who said they weren't afraid was full of shit. And we all managed a different way. We're professionals. We knew what we had to do. We knew what we signed up for, But some people cross their chest and do that. Some people do a breath. It's whatever your pre-fight ritual is. But the message there with all of these people is that you can be the best in the world or elite, and fear still touches these people.
Sure.
It's all about, and this is a really interesting reframe. We want to believe in the no fear slogan, O-N-O, like the adrenaline company, no fear. We want to believe in that, but it doesn't exist. There's something in our lives that will present itself quickly, and you go, oh shit. And it could be financial, it could be health, it could be relationship, it could be
anything.
anything.
I say it all the time, like in business, coach. People ask me all the time, they're like, how did you get to this point, or what did you do? And whether it's jumping out of a plane or a combat situation or a fight situation, I tell people all the time, if you're going to be successful, you have to understand, there's going to be very scary moments along the way, but you have to somehow find a way to plow through them.
Yeah.
And if you want to be successful, you're going to have to break through some of those barriers. I mean, George St. Pierre wouldn't be on your screen or your deck if he didn't become the fighter he became. Same with Tyson and Andy and any of those guys that learn how to manage that. It's you have to translate that into life.
Yeah. Well, they recognize it's part of it. And the metaphor that I love to share, and I think I might have talked about it in other shows, but your body's the car, and your mind is your nav system. And without being a contrarian and saying, we're driving a Tesla, your fuel is the fear. And in life, it's how we manage the fear that ultimately kind of informs or influences the destination or how far we can travel. Because nobody has like a life without fear. Life is a roller coaster ride, and it's a hard thing to do. Listen, I joke, when somebody sees me performing my program, they see, first of all, the number one fear in the world is public speaking. So they see me up on stage presenting and they go, man, and even at an unconscious level, they know public speaking. Wow, I hate that. And then I'm talking about fear and I'm sharing some neuroscience and I'm sharing some psychology and I'm giving them exercise and they're like, wow, this is useful. And then afterwards, they're like, some of the questions I get is, what's it like to have no fear? And I'm like, what? I just talked for like 3 hours or 5. What makes you think I have no fear? The hardest thing to get people is they want it to be that magic wand where they do a course or they read a book and now they're clear of fear. And I tell people, like, that's not how it works. No. It's like you said in the business example, you can have like a great month and then somebody changes something in shipping or taxes or supply chain and you have a major fear spike, and you either, and this was your interview with Dana was great about that, where some people sat down and lost everything and then some people got to work. And I had that 3 weeks after 2 weeks to flatten the curve. I was this close to losing everything I'd ever built over 30-40 years because all my training was live in person,
right?
And all of a sudden there was like no money coming in. And it was,
you talked about this, and
it was just it was great. And I gave myself 24 hours to weep, and I don't mean to sound like berating to people that didn't fight back, but I said, okay, you can be a baby for 24 hours, and now you got to get to fucking work because you got to save your family and you got to save your business.
100%. I think it taught a lot of people how to work differently, and I think if you didn't at least understand that, I've been spending endless episodes trying to explain that to brands, because they can't rely on trade shows. They can't rely on a lot of these things. You cannot. And if you don't have the money or the ability, you have to build some level of infrastructure to be able to have an experience or have something in your building. I keep explaining that to brands. I'm like, we're in the new normal now.
Right.
The new normal is going to be, there is going to constantly be now some type of manipulation of the population going forward. They are never going to go back. I don't see it any other way.
Shit.
Scary.
Yeah. So coming back to the fear thing and what you can do is ultimately you take responsibility for yourself, and then you try to inspire the person beside you. I had a guy named Aaron Ghost Tattoo. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
He did this. So a buddy of mine, and he calls me one day. He says, hey, my son, Salem. Hey, Salem. He's 10 years old and he's got anxiety, the whole mask, going back to school, and he's worried. And he said, is your program suitable for my 10-year-old? I said, maybe not, but it's suitable for his dad, for his parent, who's a coach. Unless you want your son to be raised by a Marxist socialist teacher, and there are a lot of good teachers out there, but a lot of them are frickin', like you see, like what's.
I don't think that can continue though.
Yeah, it's
I don't,
insane.
because what's going to happen is everybody's going to start homeschooling, and the first wave is going to be all these private schools are going to be
Yeah.
Toast.
But parents need to get involved, and you start with, and this is how we change the world, man. Literally, you change yourself, and then you try to change the person beside you, and it's not easy. You don't know, because if one of the things that I try to hammer home is, if we change our relationship with fear, we can change our mind incrementally, and if we change our mind, we can change our life. And that sounds kumbaya and romantic, but it literally starts like that. You don't have 3-4 good days in a row, things are kicking ass, and you get up and you say to everybody, this week's been amazing so far. Man, I wish something like catastrophic happens today so I can work on my resiliency, because things have just been so good. Nobody thinks that way. And when something shit happens, we go, why is this happening? I can't believe this happening to me. And we freak out, and we're losing, we lose time and energy by fixating on it as opposed to fixing it. And it's not easy. I'm not being cavalier about it. But what other choice do we have?
Yeah, it's incredibly hard right now, and I just don't see them going back. I don't see any regression. I think even if we win the House and Senate, the right ends up pulling it together and figuring out the House, the Senate, and maybe to an extent the presidency in the next one, but we got some time for that, and we have to get through this. I just don't see it going back. I think they figured out they have this tool. They know that they can weaponize it, and they know that no one's going to stop them.
Yeah, that's I don't want to agree, but I hear what you're saying. It's
all become, even the firearms debate. It's become too politicized, and when you overly politicize situations, it causes you to alienate certain segments. Like, there's going to be a lot of Democrat gun owners. They're still going to vote like Democrats.
Right.
Okay? Because you're trying to force them into a path, because it's all based on fear, politicization, and sociological management of people. And that's what's going on right now. You don't want to admit it. You don't want to own it, but it's one of those things. I just don't see it going back. Usually if they know they can do it and get away with it, they will.
It's, and the only way to change it is what I was alluding to, is you gotta get out there. And I was reading something this morning, that, people don't care about politics, and people don't care, we ignore. And now look where we're at, because people aren't watching. Everyone has forgotten that, and it's mind boggling, that their salaries and everything they're doing is our money. Most everyone has forgotten, other than mean tweets and commentary, that they're supposed to work for us, and they're using our money to do whatever they want.
Well, they're going to wake up to it, because what's going on, even like with the looting, right? You got people going in and grabbing 50 Louis bags, robbing Gucci, robbing all the high-end stores. That's all going to trickle down through insurance premiums, gas prices, cost of goods, everything else. Sooner or later, people are going to wake up, or they're going to be broke.
Right.
And they're not understanding that the end game results in money, and it's always follow the money trail. And at some point, it's going to kick them so hard. Police, it's going to be a very long time, I think, before you're going to see law enforcement officers consistently want to be in the muck like that, because it's too much liability.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to take responsibility. And that's the problem with the environment right now. So you have this crazy environment where I could walk out of here right now and probably go rip off Louis Vuitton, and run down the street and have George Soros bail me out 5 minutes later.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, there's no. You're out the next day.
You're out the next day. The guys who burnt the guys who burnt the Fox News tree.
Right.
They lit it on fire. He was out before the fire was out.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Or our friend, the SUV driver.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a crazy situation.
Right. Gone out of the news. Nothing to see here. Move along.
I think he killed a kid too.
8 or 9 people killed. Insanity.
Now, I think it's dangerous times.
Yes.
And the question I have for you is, do you think it'll go back to normal? But I know you tend to agree with me. And 2, what do people do? How, if they have been sitting around, what advice do you give them to start to pick up the pieces and overcome that debilitation of just being on the couch, like you said, stuck?
Yeah. listen, you can't make changes living in the fear loop. And it comes down to, you peel any onion, in this metaphoric onion, and it comes down to fear. People that are overreacting do it out of fear. People that are underreacting, they're doing it out of fear. You know, you're sitting there, you're gaining weight, you're sitting in your car alone with a mask on, driving. You know, like the only reason that exists is because of fear. So it really comes down to that. Will it go back? I think if you, I'm not well versed in this, but there's a pattern of civilizations, you know, that, you know, get too fat and get too lax, and then it destroys itself, and then it, you know,
hopefully builds itself back
builds
up.
itself back.
I actually blame the baby boomer generation, which I know you're kind of a part of, but I actually came for them, that whole generation, because I think they're one of the biggest fear mongering generations we've ever dealt with, and I see the power. You know, I mean, Nancy Pelosi, she's 100, Tony. She's
Right.
still there. It's like they don't want to let go of anything. They're going to have it in their cold claws forever. And they love putting the fear and manipulation into people and causing an outcome that might be advantageous to them. And it's insane.
It is.
It's nuts.
It is.
Now, you're going around, you're teaching.
Yes, sir.
Still everybody? Everyone.
Whoever wants to
Never
learn.
stops for you.
You know, it's weird. It's truly my canvas. It's what
Yeah.
it's what I love to do. It's my fountain of youth. Keeps me young, and it's you're truly touching people. I have I'm going to make you read this.
Yeah.
And it's this letter, written by a 10-year-old. Written by a 10-year-old. Let me
To you?
Yeah. And remember, I started to tell you about the dad,
Yeah.
Aaron. Hey, is this too young? Is my son too young for this? And he and I said no. So what I did there is I said, you're his father. You need to somehow find a way to do that. And so here's a 10-year-old kid who wrote me this, and I talked about this on Mike Glover's podcast, but I didn't have the letter. I took a picture of the letter. Read that, and I want parents listening. This is a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah. Let me take a look. Oh, wow. He hand wrote it out.
Yeah, it's amazing. I had, just so you know, when his dad gave it to me just before he sat down to do some work, I had tears in my eyes. I was crying.
I believe it.
And if I read it now, I'll start to cry. So I'm going to let you read it.
So it says, Dear Tony Blauer, thank you for giving me the tools to have a great mindset and for making me into a better person. Me and my dad have been listening to your seminars. It is helping both of us, and I think that it is awesome. I would also like to thank you for giving me the tools that help me to be brave when I'm afraid, to always practice courage and remember that courage is contagious. I'm excited to learn more and always move forward. Thank you very much, Salem Jackman.
10-year-old kid. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, like, you asked me, like, what do? We change the future by educating
one child at a time,
getting rid of those baby boomers, right? Like, and what are we doing? You know. So, like, that shit, goosebumps, man. From and that's what I do when I, you know, and I've had, whether it's a 70-year-old grandma pinch my cheek and go thank you for, you know, because we all have fear, and the message doesn't take the fear away, but it gives us emotional, psychological tools to recognize there are things we can start to do with it.
That's why I tell everybody, you know, I'm a huge fan of guys like Coach Blauer. You have to have these people in your arsenal. You know, the guys that I have on this show, the people that participate, and you have them yourself. And I try to tell the audience all the time, you have to have the teachings of guys like yourself at the forefront. Guys like, you know, Jordan Peterson that are putting a lot of great content out there that's available. You don't necessarily have to pony up and go to one of his seminars, but you could participate in all your stuff online now. And you have to have this in your arsenal. in your bag. I don't know what term you use. I don't like to say another tool in the toolbox. I know it's a cliche, but you have to have these people in the teachings, because to get a letter like that from a kid who maybe has some level of an awakening in that moment, and he realizes it's not okay to be treated a certain way, and have the knowledge now to understand that that's true, number one. And number two, the ability to say, I'm not going to fucking deal with that. Okay. I'm going to do me, and I'm going to go forward. Like you said,
like, you know, I said to his dad, I said, I need to stay in touch with your son, because I want to see who he grows into when he's 15, when he's 20, when he's 25.
Yeah.
You know, with that, if somebody had taught me the difference between the psychology of fear and the physiology of fear as a young athlete, I mean, I'd go to wrestling matches when I was young, like terrified. I'd go to ski competitions terrified. And I was a really good athlete. I wasn't like the last on the team, but I could never find my stride, right? And it's like, again, coming back to like Tyson talking about fear now, or George St. Pierre. Like if they had never revealed that to the public, we would assume they had no fear. Because when Tyson walked out to the ring, he didn't have vomit dripping down his face.
He was stoic.
He already wiped that shit off, right? So this is the big message, is that like everyone has fear, and like that's what it's about. It's you peel that onion. I mean, if you didn't fear fear, what would you try? If you didn't fear fear, what would you do?
Yeah.
Right? Anything.
I always tell people all the time, you have to fear losing more than you love winning. It's one of the secrets to being successful. It's that you have to wake up. People, I get asked all the time, like how I hop out of bed. People say I don't sleep. I hear that all the time. I'm like, you have to fear losing more than you love winning. It's the fear that gets me out of bed every day and do the shows. And
you know, if I kind of did my spin on that, it's because you don't ever want it to sound pejorative or negative,
right?
Like, you know, I don't want to be a loser. I don't want. What you're doing is, whatever your connection to that fear is, you're using it as fuel to get going. And so even in that little gesture, that's fear management. And it's just changing little definitions, you know.
I think it was what Pat McNamara said at one time. He said he put his sneakers and his sweatpants at the end of the bed, and he'd be hungover, all fucked up, you know. And just like when he was getting his life back together, he goes, I looked at them and I said, I'm going.
Yeah, Ali used to put his running shoes on top of his alarm clock, and because he hated running. And so, you know, back in the analog alarm clock days, you know, radio, bzzz, you know, he'd roll over and do this, and he would touch his shoes. He figured out that'll be the psychological trigger. I feel my running shoes reminds me to get up. So any psychological trigger that helps you become a better version of yourself. I
have to do that with ringtones, Coach. Yeah. So because if I hate I have to give them a pleasant ringtone. So I'm like, hey,
right,
how are you?
I can record something. Johnny.
Yeah.
Get up.
Exactly. Now, I wanted to get with you on this. I hadn't ever talked to you about this before. Obviously, in Hollywood, and you're in LA, we see a lot of different stuff coming out. Has Hollywood lost the ability to put a movie out and have people because I love horror movies and fear movies. It's now become so woke there.
Right.
That they can't put anything out that can meaningfully really scare the shit out of us anymore, right? You know?
I mean,
I got to ask the Fear Master himself. I mean, it's you and Wes Craven.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, it's funny. I abhor violence, which is why I study it.
Right.
And I hate being scared. So I don't go to horror movies. I don't like them because my body is already like the reason I've developed all this stuff initially was it wasn't a passion of mine. It was an obsession. I wanted to understand like how to overcome this.
Right.
And you know, I made it wasn't a joke, but if my parents or teachers knew how to teach me how to manage fear, a lot of I might have ended up here on the show at this age right here, but with less gray hair, less cortisol, and less worry about things. Like I didn't ask Lucy to the prom, in high school because I was afraid she'd say no.
Say no.
Right? So, like in everything.
You avoid them.
Yeah, you just go, But what we do in life, like if you don't want to go down this rabbit hole, we rationalize, and you know how to spell rationalize, rational-lie, right? I rationalize, she wouldn't, what, screw her, or this or that,
I can't overcome it with rides. It's not movies. My struggle is like rides. I don't like going on fucking roller coasters.
Okay. Yeah. I don't have a question. I don't have an answer to your Hollywood thing. There's obviously some genius writers out there and directors, but we've been hit with so much as like what shocks you now,
right?
Or what goes, and it's the same thing with the news. Like,
the reality's better.
I mean, think about like that SUV attack 10 years ago. How that would be in the news for 6 months. It was gone in a week. And nobody wanted to cover it.
Would have been 6 months, a year, 2 years ago, that would have been a terror attack.
Yeah.
And it would have been talked about for 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt.
Yeah. So, and I don't live in LA. I live south of LA. I just want to.
We got to keep you mysterious. Right. We have to keep it under wraps.
I live in
the vicinity
sector.
Greater.
Right? I go there occasionally for peaceful protests.
Peaceful, mostly peaceful,
right?
Not totally correct. Peaceful. It's the fear piece in Hollywood. Like I said, I think what I was getting at is what you got to, which is I think the reality's scarier.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's just the real life narrative is better than the movie.
Like if I came in and I pitched you, hey, here's the thing, we're going to do this. We're going to create a virus. It's going to contaminate the world. Everyone, we're going to move to like a
it's a killer movie.
Nations run by big pharma, and we're going to censor everything. We're basically doing a modern remake of 1984, and like you'd go, that's just shit that'll never. No one will believe that.
No one will believe it.
Story, Oh, but I make this. I make the joke sometimes, like I didn't think I'd be alive to watch the end of the world.
Right.
I mean, so going back to what you said, is like reality is scarier.
Yeah,
it is. You're like if you look too long in little pockets of what's going on, you look at what's going on in Austria, in Australia, in
Australia's crazy right now.
It's and certain parts of it. I got friends down there. They go, it's like where I live. In a mysterious part of California, it's no one's wearing a mask and people are walking around, and you've got some people, but I don't care. Just don't force me to behave a certain way.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, we live in a bit of a rural area compared to the hot spots.
Yeah, it's people just you have to understand what's going on out there. You have to have some awareness of what's happening and where you're feeding your information through, because whether it's Twitter, whether it's any of the social media channels, they can all be very toxic very quickly, especially to your mindset.
Our echo chamber is full of propaganda and manipulation and stuff. It's just, like if all social media blew up and we got rid of, we said, okay, you're now liable for injuries caused by any medication. You're not protected. Things would be changed. Things
100%.
would change really quickly. People got to turn off the news, do your own research, and 3 eyes, instincts, intuition, intelligence. Get back to actually, like, does this resonate with me? You're not getting free cancer, free diabetes, free nutrition advice, free gym memberships, but you get this shot that they don't want to tell you what's in the inside of it for 75 years, and you could win $1 million or get a free donut. Like if you can't,
they're giving away McDonald's.
If you can't see there's a problem with all of that, then I don't know.
I don't know either. It's going to be ugly. I know you got to get on a call. It's already time.
Yeah.
Let everybody know where they can find you, where you'll be next, and how they can reach you, and what they can do to support the Spear system.
Yeah, well, this is really about yourself, and I'm glad I shared that letter from Salem, because if you have a kid, if you're a parent, like that's what you got to do. You got to protect your family, your protector, your provider. Look into that. So we spell No Fear, KNOW. I got a website on it called No Fear Now, and but if you go to my depending on, like, you got a lot of people obviously into firearms and personal safety, and
Of course,
all of
everybody
that.
wants to be more capable.
So there's a bunch of things that we do. I am shadow banned, so if you look me up a certain
Aren't we
way,
all?
you may not find me. Yeah, for sure. But my main website is Blauer, my last name, Blauer, trainingsystems.com. And that'll take you to all of the different, from our scenario training to our actual force on force. But I do a lot of stuff. Hit me up. I do all my own answering on social media. So if you send a question to my company or to me, I didn't outsource that. It's actually me answering. So if it's something about your family or your company or personal safety or tactical fitness, happy to help and support your audience.
Oh my God. Listen, guys, I know Eric's been sharing the links and all the guys have been sharing the links in the chat. Go check out everything Coach Blauer's doing. Guys, if you don't have Coach Blauer in your arsenal, your toolbox, whatever you want to call it, whatever language you want to use, you have to. And just go look at some of his work. He'll help you work through some of that stuff. It's really an honor to have you in here.
It's so much fun always to come back here, man.
Oh, I love having you. You're always welcome here, and I always make you promise to come back at some point. Promise?
Thank you, buddy. Of course.
Oh, yeah. I hope so. Let's go to a fight one time, too. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Get here on a weekend. Let me know. We'll do that. We'll do that for real. Appreciate everybody. I want to thank some of the sponsors. Head over to the website, www.johnbartoloshow.com. And I want to thank a few of them now. Gallo Technologies, Rhino Metals, Blackwater Ammunition, Pulsar, Thermal Imaging Technology, Enforce Weapon Lights, Sig Sauer. Go buy a Sig. And go check out Brady Spieth at Right On and Scott Volkortsen's podcast over at Volkortsen. Those guys, they're trying to push that, so go check them out. They got a lot of good guests on. And I want to give a special thanks to, of course, Coach Blauer for coming in and spending the time. Go leave reviews, like and subscribe. We're out.